Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is August 15th, 2024, and let's get to the map updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? I first want to begin with Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad, and this front line is very important because we've been all focusing with great interest with what's going on in Kursk, and indeed this is a great, brilliant operation by the Ukrainian military, but unfortunately there's also a problematic front line for the Ukrainian forces, which is the Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad front line, where the Russians are indeed gaining ground. However, I wouldn't say I am extremely worried here because, yes, the Russians for the last few months have been able to keep their momentum, but let's not forget that this entire area the Russians captured between Avdiivka and Horodivka is about 6 months of gains, right? After the fall of Avdiivka back in February of this year, the Russians continued on with their momentum and they managed to capture more settlements in this area. One of the reasons why, and we know, is the fact that the Ukrainian military did not build fortification lines after Avdiivka. They thought that they could hold this city, and that didn't happen. And so the Russians afterwards had an easier time to push through their meat waves. And this is something that is really difficult to defend when the Russian command simply does not care about its losses. But yes, the Russians are getting close to Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad in this very important highway that connects a lot of other cities in Donbas that are under Ukrainian control. But let's not forget how long and how difficult it is for the Russians to be good in urban warfare. They've never been good. If we take the example of Bakhmut, which is a city similar in size compared to Pokrovsk, about 60 to 70,000 people prior to the war, it took them over 10 months to take Bakhmut with some elite Wagner forces. Yes, they did throw prisoners, Wagner prisoners and other conscripts that were poorly experienced, but generally speaking, Prigozhin and the Russian military back then in late 2022 and early 2023 had really good weaponry. They had an overwhelming artillery advantage, which is something that the Ukrainians were struggling back then. And still, that took the Russians 10 months to capture Bakhmut. Let's not forget either Chasiv Yar. Right now, a lot of people were saying even back a few months ago that Chasiv Yar would be doomed and the Russians would take it. And that didn't happen. The Ukrainians are holding the line. As a matter of fact, due to the Ukrainian offensive in Kursk, it's been confirmed that some of these brigades have been, some now, not all, some of them have been transferred to fight in Kursk, which is really easing off the pressure on Chasiv Yar right now. So the Ukrainians are capable of defending, and this is what I think the Ukraine command is betting on, is that they will fall back inevitably towards Pokrovsk. This area will be taken by the Russians. Again, this will take a few weeks before they reach the outskirts of Pokrovsk, and I think that the Ukraine command is also betting on bad weather, which will inevitably come. With the fall and winter weather coming through, the Russians simply won't be able to be as mobile as they would like to. And so this will also give an advantage for the Ukrainians to hold Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, likely turning it into another Vuhledar where the Russians can storm as much as they want, but they will be defeated. At the very least, if this is not a Vuhledar situation, the Ukrainians will be able to hold Pokrovsk, and I'm sure and confident of that, for a few months, giving enough time for the Ukrainians to make their gains in Kursk. We know that right now the Kursk offensive is brilliant. The Ukrainians are liberating and capturing more and more towns in Kursk. And this is a serious dilemma for Putin. He's pretending that this is a counter-terrorist operation that he's doing, but he doesn't want to admit either that this is a war, right? He still tries to fool the Russians into believing that this is just a small setback. So as the Ukrainians are having brilliant, fast gains, right? This is in a little bit over a week of gains that the Ukrainians are having, over 1,200 square kilometers that have been taken by the Ukrainians in the past 10 days. The Russians, for them, this entire sector took over 6 months to take. Yes, they're gaining ground. Yes, it sucks that it's happening, but the Kursk offensive has changed everything. And now Ukraine is directing the narrative. And I think that with the Ukrainians falling back to Pokrovsk, the losses will just become astronomical for the Russians again, like it was in Avdiivka and Bakhmut, where the Russians lost, some estimates bring it to 50,000 casualties just to take the surroundings of Bakhmut, right? Whether it be dead, wounded, missing in action, and which led to eventually having Prigozhin to do his mutiny in June of 2023 because he had such tremendous catastrophic losses, and that angered him. the fact that Putin wasn't siding, wasn't on his side, wasn't trying to really push him towards higher positions within the Kremlin. And so I think that part of it is that Prigozhin saw that the Russian military is heading towards a brick wall. So I think all of this to say that we should not be forgetting about this front line. I think the Ukrainians right now are betting on the defense, very hard defense of Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad, which will take several months. And at the same time, they will try to make as many gains as possible and forcing the Russians, of course, this is part of the strategy of their Kursk offensive, to transfer as many of their units located in Donbas in Kursk and then hit them where they least expected. So you guys can let me know in the comment section what you think about my prognosis, but I just want to tell my viewers that it is not as doomy as it looks here. Now, let's go to the Kursk offensive, because of course this is one of the hot topics in the last few days. And just giving you guys an update on what's going on in Kursk. So today, Syrsky talked with Zelensky and he confirmed that Ukraine continues to push forward. In Kursk, 82 settlements have been liberated so far by the Ukrainian forces and over 1,200 square kilometers have been taken as well. Also, massive amounts of prisoners of war. Today, lots of Russian soldiers surrendered. Some claim up to 170 soldiers surrendered today, including FSB agents and Kadyrovites, which are very, very pricey and I should say expensive prisoners that are very valued by Kadyrov. So this will really be great for the exchange fund eventually. And also Russia started contacting Ukraine first to discuss a prisoner exchange. Some are claiming that Ukraine has over 2,000 Russian prisoners of war, which is massive, and this will greatly help to exchange some very valuable prisoners, such as the Azov soldiers, which have been unfortunately sitting and being tortured by the Russians for the last few years. Also, another thing that I need to mention is that Ukraine has been setting up humanitarian aid stations in the captured settlements in Kursk, and just to help the locals with basic necessities. They've also set up evacuation corridors for the locals to whether they want to go to Russia or to Ukraine. These corridors are set up, and also a hotline to help out the locals if they need some assistance from the Ukrainian military as well. So this is a very large contrast, big contrast compared to how Russia operates in Ukraine. There's no such things that were set up by the Russians when they started devastating Ukrainian settlements. And also, it's unfortunate, but today there was also a video that was released by the Russians where they were able to destroy a Ukrainian HIMARS system in Sumy. So there was a video proof that was shared today. So I just wanted to mention that this offensive doesn't come without its losses. So indeed, Ukraine is losing some equipment here, and that will always happen because this is an offensive. And the Russians, we should not be underestimating them. They have capabilities, even though right now they have been taken by surprise. They still have abilities. They have drones flying. And so we need to keep that in mind. And Ukraine needs to be more careful at trying to protect these very valuable assets. And one last thing that I want to mention is that we've had some confirmation and sources are confirming that the Biden administration is thinking of to give the AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles for the F-16s that the Ukrainians have received last month. So these are really, really big game changers in terms of the range and their warhead that they can carry. They have a warhead of about 450 kilograms, similar to the AFB 500 glide bomb that the Russians have, and it has a range of 360 kilometers. So this could allow the Ukrainians to be flying these F-16s and launching these cruise missiles on key Russian bases. Now, again, it depends what kind of red lines and limitations the Biden administration will impose on the Ukrainians. I hope they don't, but this is also possible. But certainly this will really help the Ukrainians if they can utilize them, these cruise missiles, on Russian territory in Kursk, Belgorod, Bryansk, where the Russians are right now trying to plan a counterattack, which will happen eventually. So that's the little update for Kursk. Now, let's talk about great news today. The Russians lost another strategic bomber, the Tu-22M3. Remember that Russia only has 30 of them, less than 30 at this point. Previously, Ukraine, the last time the Ukraine destroyed one was back in April with S-200 air defense system. So they destroyed one a few months ago, but this one basically crashed because of apparently mechanical malfunction in Irkutsk, very, very far away. So of course, this was not the result of a Ukrainian missile that hit it. It was really a mechanical malfunction here. And let's remember that one unit, so one Tu-22M3 strategic bomber, costs around $200 million USD. So Russia has less than 30 at this point. They are not able to build these strategic bombers anymore. So anything that they can do with them is just modernize them. So this is a huge loss for the Russians, and it hinders their ability to launch missiles and bombs on Ukrainian positions and cities, because they've also been terrorizing the Ukrainian population throughout the country. And also one honorable mention is yesterday, between the night of August 13th till August 14th, the Ukrainians launched a massive UAV attack on 4 different Russian airfields. And the 2 most important ones were Borisoglepsk and Baltimore airfields, where they saw the most intense attacks by the Ukrainians. And satellite imagery confirms that the Ukrainians were able to damage some hangars, some ammunition depots. So indeed, again, the Ukrainians were really trying to attack airfields to really counter Russia's ability to mount an effective counterattack in Kursk. And so by destroying Su-34s and other jet fighters, ammunition depots, this is really going to hurt the Russians in having air superiority on their own backyard, which is massive. You can see the aftermath as well of this, the crash of the Tu-22M3, which it seems to be, was carrying a payload of bombs and missiles. It appears to be the case because of the explosion, a secondary explosion that occurred right after the crash. So overall, great news for the Russian Air Force. They keep losing jet fighters, and their airfields continue to be struck by Ukrainian UAVs. And last but not least, I wanted to share this story to you guys because I want to hear your opinion. So it's been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, according to their investigation, that what happened in Nord Stream a few years ago, the pipeline that blew up, they claim that this was a Ukrainian sabotage operation. Essentially, they claim that, according to their investigation, a small sailing boat and a team of 6 people, a combination of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians with relevant expertise, took part of this operation to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. This operation used private funding, but was directed by serving army general who reported to Ukraine's then Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny, who is now the UK ambassador for Ukraine. Zelensky proved the plan, but later backtracked after the CIA found out about it and asked Kyiv to call it off, according to Wall Street Journal's sources. Zaluzhny and Zelensky are saying that they knew nothing about this operation. They're calling it a mere provocation. So you guys can let me know what you think about this operation. Do you really think that this was Ukraine that was behind it? I'm eager to hear your opinions. If I was to comment on this, I just want to mention that if we're looking at things right now, it's a good thing for Germany and other European countries, because this allowed them to be less dependent on Russian gas and fossil fuels, which is something that Russia was trying to leverage as basically an energy blackmailing tool against Europe. That you're going to be supporting Ukraine, we're going to turn off the taps and you're going to freeze to death. Remember those campaigns in late 2022 where Russia was basically laughing in Europe because they're going to turn the taps off. So in the grand scheme of things, even if it was Ukraine, I think in the long run, this has benefited Europe in understanding that they cannot rely on Russian gas. But you guys can let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you think this was a Ukraine operation, or do you think that this is just some psyop by Russia trying to, give false evidence and proof? So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoy my update. Again, I'll keep you guys updated in the next few days with the Kursk operation. And also, huge thank you for 30,000 subscribers. I'm really grateful for your support of my channel, but also for this the support of the Ukrainian cause. And I'm super, super grateful for 30,000 subscribers. This is a huge milestone. I'm very, very grateful for this. So thank you again, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!